One-dimensional skill classification for cricket throwing is described as both gross and fine motor skills. It is aligned with gross motor skills due to its large musculature involved in the movement as well as whole body movement. Furthermore, it also includes fine motor skills when manipulating the ball to complete the throw. Throwing is a discrete skill due to the action having a distinct beginning and end, and it also is a closed skill as the participant initiates the moving as well as ending it.
The Gentile's two-dimensional skill classification system for cricket throwing indicates that it is a 4B classification, meaning there is body stability when the throw is being completed, there is object manipulation when the ball is in your hand, and it's under regulatory conditions, which mean the ball is always going to be the same, and there will be also inter-trial variability due to the ball coming in different directions as well as different throwing distances.
There are 3 stages of learning involved in the cricket throw. The first stage is a cognitive stage where the participant is only beginning to understand the nature of the skill whilst getting information from various sources such as observing, expert feedback and their own feedback. In this stage, the observer is being guided by the expert.
By the end of week 3 of the training program, the sessions become more complex, assuming the novice may be entering the associative stage of learning, where they will start to understand the skill a bit better and adopt the correct movement patterns related to the cricket throw. As the program only lasts 6 weeks, we don't expect the skill to enter the autonomous stage, where the movement is completed with the least amount of conscious effort.
Giving the participant a visual demonstration of the correct form allows them to model their own technique on what they see from the expert. Modelling is a simple and helpful technique for skill acquisition. Verbal cues often consist of just 2 or 3 words. They are an effective and efficient method of delivering instructions to the participant. Landon 1994. Some of the cues used for the overarm throw include standing side on, pointing at the target, step forward, square up your shoulders and hips, follow through to the opposite pocket. The grip involved is a peace grip using your 2 fingers and 1 thumb. Also, make sure you're having the ball sitting comfortably in your hand, not too far back.
Portions of the skills such as pointing at the target and following through are difficult for the participant to focus on when they are completing the skill. A coach or a mentor giving the participant augmented feedback during and after the skill that is being performed can help them correct these mistakes. Torovodov, Shamir, and Biz 1997. The guidance hypothesis described by Schmidt 1991 predicts that guiding properties of augmented feedback are beneficial for motor learning to reduce error, but is detrimental when relied upon. This theory has been supported by literature as Anderson, McGill, Sakia, and Ryan 2005 found that delaying feedback encouraged learners to pay closer attention to their movement and more throughout exploring intrinsic feedback from themselves rather than someone else coaching them. This forces the learner to become more of an active learner rather than a passive learner, and therefore practicing with a large amount of augmented feedback would be detrimental for learning. Thus, progressively throughout our training program, we aim to decrease the amount of feedback to promote active learning. Whether to practice skills in part or in its whole entirety, Naylor and Brigg in 1963 suggested that organisation and complexity characteristics of a skill provide the basis of whole or part practice. The 1963 theory by Naylor and Brigg suggests that skills in low complexity, high organisation should be done in whole practice, and skills that are high complexity and low organisation should be done in part practice. Fontano, Furtado, Mazzato, and Gallagher 2009's meta-analysis concluded evidence which supports literature as the collaborative effect size of studies demonstrate that whole practice is more appropriate for tasks such as throwing, as it is low in skill complexity and high in organisation, demonstrating why we did whole practice in our training program.
Practice tools used in throwing include the ball and the target. The main target used during the program is the cricket stumps. The skill is made more difficult to increase practice tools by placing stumps side on for a smaller target size. This employs Fitz's law and the speed-accuracy trade-off. Accuracy is increased when speed is not emphasised. This forms a novice's initial block practice as accuracy is important to the skill. Speed is then emphasised later in the program as the movement distance increases in Hicks response time training. The stumps being side-on incorporates Fitz's law where the target size has decreased from the original target of the large jumper on a fence to the slim side of the stumps. The target size and movement distance can then determine movement speed and accuracy of the skill. In this blocked practice, we employ evidence by Goodale et al. 1991, identifying spatial awareness, orientation, size of the object being the ball, and size of the target that they're throwing at as the main components of completing a skill successfully. We aim to accustom the novice to these aspects in the first 3 weeks of training.
Our training program is broken into distributed practice sessions done 3 times per week. This type of distributed practice is done due to literature studies completed by Bradley Longman 1978 and Dale and Christina 2004, as they concluded that practice sessions that are shorter and more frequent are more beneficial for skill acquisition, learning, and retention compared to mass practice, which is longer and fewer, which affects the rate of learning.
Camphor and Ackerman 1989 identified motivation and cognitive abilities, the 2 basic determinants of learning and performance. They conducted a number of experiments to demonstrate the effect of motivation intervention during skill acquisition. They found increasing intentional task demands led to enhanced task performance. We include this in our program as the transition from blocked to random practice, then including verbal and visual cues in Hicks response time training. They also identified persistence and intensity of the task to affect performance. Inclusion of trapping and catching in random practice sessions raises the attentional demands and difficulty, allowing the participant to focus on their throwing actions over the number of trials whilst the inclusion of the other skills are involved. Hicks response time training has a strong focus on intentional demands, as the novice has to take on or ignore relevant and irrelevant verbal and visual cues whilst performing the throw. Procedural memory is closely aligned with skill acquisition. It is the long-term memory on how to complete a certain skill step by step. It involves repeated successful encoding of sensory information from the short-term memory to the long-term memory. The aim of this training program is to guide the novice to the autonomous stage of learning and increase their procedural memory of the cricket throw. Waltz 1998 looked into strengthening each key aspect of the skill to develop automaticity. Their research found practicing skills under consistent conditions could then allow the novice to perform the skill without conscious control, activating their automaticity. Dual task training is employed by week 6 to get the novice to use selective attention to focus on their throwing action whilst also performing another skill simultaneously.
Although first using a tennis ball to focus on technique is beneficial, eventually using a cricket ball will make the drills more specific to simulating cricket fielding. Annette and Sparrow in 1985 suggest that this process will foster positive transfer. Following this 6-week program, a retention test should be completed 3 weeks after the post-test, using the same testing protocol. This test measures whether the participant can replicate the technique of the overarm throw after an extended period with no training. Thank you very much for watching.